Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnana-shalakam Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Chaitanya Manobhustam Stapitam Yena Bhutaleshvam Rupagadamyam Dadati Smapanantikam Vandhyam Shiyuda Padkam Nam Shiyum Vaishnavamsha Shiyupam Jagajatam Saganaragnatam Patam Tam Sajivan Sadvaitam Savlutam Bhajana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakanalita Shikshakam Vitam He Krishna Guruna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jatpate Gopesha Gopakanta Radhakantam Tapta Kansana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamama Hari Pri Panka Kalpa Vishakhi Pasan Vibsha Padnam Bhavani Vyo Vaishnavyo Namam Shaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shiva Sati Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachavani Nirvishesha Singhavadi Paspachaya Dasatani Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Shevam Narotanam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jamudirat Nastavesa Bhatrasu Nityam Bharata Sevya Bhagavata Tamasake Bhakti Bhakti Naistaki Hare Krishna. We are reading from the 12th chapter of the 11th Canto, Uddhava Gita. We heard in the previous chapter about symptoms of liberated and conditioned souls. And we heard also how the touch karma yoga leads to bhakti and its practice. And at the end of the previous chapter, we heard also about association with devotees. And this was in fact really the sum and substance of the previous chapter, association with devotees. And also, the next chapter starts with association with pure devotees. In the Bhagavad Gita, we have chapter 12, the most confidential knowledge. And this most confidential knowledge focuses on bhakti. But now this bhakti will be described here, which is pure devotion services beyond renunciation and knowledge. And this bhakti will lead us to the highest form of love of Godhead in this chapter. And it will lead us to the prema, to the love of the residents of Vrindavan. So we'll read I will recite the first two verses of this chapter. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Narodayati Mam Yogo Nasankyam Dharmaivasha Nasvatyayas Tapastyago Neshta Purtam Nudakshina Vratani Jahya Shandamsi Tirtani Niyama Yama Yata Varunde Satsanga Sarva Sangra Pahimam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Uddhava, by associating with my pure devotees, one can destroy one's attachment for all objects of material sense gratification. Such purifying association brings me under the control of my devotee. One may perform the Ashtanga Yoga system, engage in philosophical analysis of the elements of material nature, practice non-violence and other ordinary principles of piety, chant the Vedas, perform penances, take the renounced order of life, execute sacrificial performances and dig wells, plant trees, and perform other public welfare activities, give in charity, carry out severe vows, worship the demigods, chant confidential mantras, visit holy places, or accept major or minor disciplinary injunctions. But even by performing such activities, one does not bring me under his control. So it's that with my dear Uddhava, by associating with my pure devotees, one can destroy one's attachment for all objects of material sense gratification. Such purifying association brings me under the control of my devotee. So, Lord Krishna mentioned in these two verses that association with his pure devotees is far more powerful than processes such as yoga, philosophical speculation, sacrifices, and public welfare activities. These are secondary activities, and they are also pleasing, but to pleasing Krishna, but to a lesser extent. Like the injunction that one should fast on Ekadashi is a permanent vow for all Vaishnavas. One should not conclude from these verses that one may neglect the Ekadashi vow. It may be concluded that such secondary principles are essential for the advancement of Krishna consciousness, and therefore one should never give up the principle of vrata, the execution of prescribed vows. So in the previous chapter, Srila Sridhar Swami mentioned that the word Ajayevam Gunan Dosan, Srimad Bhagavatam 11:1132, previous chapter, indicate that the devotee should select Vedic principles that do not conflict with the service of the Lord. Many of the elaborate Vedic ceremonies are complicated procedures for fasting, demigod worship, and yoga practice cause great disturbance to the supreme process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, hearing and chanting about the Lord. Therefore, they are rejected by the Vaishnavas. Further examples are given from Maharaj Yudhishthir and Ambarish Maharaj. So we can go to the second last paragraph. Yeah. Can someone read this paragraph? The principle of not giving up prescribed vows.
Yeah, can I read, Maharaj?
Yeah, please.
The principle of not giving up prescribed vows may be further illustrated by the example of Maharaja Ambarisha. In the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we find that although Maharaja Ambarish performed elaborate Vedic sacrifices, his goal was always the satisfaction of the Lord. The citizens in his kingdom did not desire to go to heaven because they were always hearing about the glories of Vaikuntha. Ambarish Maharaj, along with his queen, observed the vow of Ekadashi and Dwadashi for 1 year. Since Ambarish Maharaj is considered to be a great jewel among the Vaishnavas, and since his behavior was always exemplary, it is definitely concluded that such vow as fasting on Ekadashi are imperative for Vaishnavas. It is further stated in the Vedic literature, if due to negligence a Vaishnava does not fast on Ekadashi, then his worship of Lord Vishnu is useless and he will go to hell. The members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness fast from grains and beans on Ekadashi, and this oath should always be observed by all of its members.
Thank you. Someone else can read the next paragraph. If one falsely thinks,
Yes,
What?
Maharaj.
please
If
write.
one falsely thinks that one may obtain the association of Lord Krishna merely by great austerities, brilliant studies in Sanskrit literature, magnanimous acts of charity, etc., one's Krishna consciousness will be distorted and weakened. One should remember the example of Lord Chaitanya, who practiced Krishna consciousness by constantly hearing and chanting about Lord Krishna. If by fasting, study, austerity, or sacrifice, one becomes more fit to participate in the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya, then such activities are also pleasing to Lord Krishna. But the Lord clearly explains here that such activities can never become central in the practice of Bhakti Yoga. They must remain in an auxiliary relationship to the supreme process of satsanga, or association with pure devotees who hear and chant the glories of the Lord. Srila Madhvacharya has quoted from Vedic literature that if one offends the Lord's devotees and does not learn to associate with them, Lord Vishnu personally places barriers in the path of such a person so that he may not enter into the Lord's company.
Thank you. So in conclusion, fasting, study, austerity, sacrifice, it must remain in an auxiliary relationship to devotional service. That is the essence of this paragraph. Now I will read the purport of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj. The relationship we establish in this material world are not eternal, not are they actual beneficial. The association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is attained by association of his devotees. The various methods for attaining perfection in life, such as the atheistic Sankhya philosophical system, the theistic Sankhya philosophical system, the performance of major and minor religious duty, the study of the Vedas, the performance of penances, cultivating a life of renunciation, engaging in welfare activities, giving charity, performing sacrifices, chanting Vedic mantras, taking bath in holy places, and controlling the mind and senses, are not as effective in pleasing the Lord as the association of his pure devotees. The Supreme Lord is unconquerable, but is controlled by the love of his pure devotees. All methods for achieving the ultimate goal of life that are followed by non-devotees cannot purchase the favor of the Supreme Lord. So again, the association with pure devotees is stressed. But text 3 to 6. In every yuga, many living entities entangled in the modes of passion and ignorance gained the association of my devotees. Thus, such living entities as the Daityas, Rakshasas, birds, beasts, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Nagas, Siddhas, Charanas, Uyakas, and Vidyadharas, as well as such lower class human beings as the Vaishyas, Sudras, women, and others were able to achieve my supreme abode. Vitrasur, Prahlad Maharaj, and others like them also achieved my abode by association with my devotees, as did personalities such as Vrishaparva, Bali Maharaj, Vanasura, Maya, Vibhishan, Sugriva, Hanuman, Jambavan, Gajendra, Jatayu, Tuladhar, Dharmavyada, Kupya, the gopis in Vrindavan and the wives of the Brahmins who were performing sacrifice. So the points here in the purport is that it speaks about reformed demons like Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj. Of course, Prahlad Maharaj, he was already a devotee from before birth. So the reformed demons are also mentioned so that readers of Srimad Bhagavatam will understand the enormous benefits one may achieve by associating with the devotees of the Lord. Like the examples given in the Bhagavatam. Vitrasur in his previous life associated with Narada Muni, Sriangira Muni, and Lord Sankarshan. Prahlad Maharaj, he associated with Narada Muni in the womb. Bali Maharaj associated with Prahlad Maharaj. Vibhishan, a pious-natured demon, the brother of Ravan, associated with Hanuman and Ramachandra. So we have also the wives of the Brahman who associated with the Pulindas. The Pulindas, they were the flower sellers, the forest dwellers who were selling flowers and fruits from the forest. And they came in contact with these Brahman wives, the wives of the Brahmins. And they told them about Krishna because they were dwelling through the forest and they saw Krishna and Balaram and the cowboys. Every time they were speaking about Krishna. So these Pulindas were pure devotees. This is mentioned in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, chapter 7, part 3. So we will also read the last paragraph of this purport, long purports. Yeah, the importance of association with devotees. Can someone read this purport?
The importance of association with devotees is illustrated in the story of Dharmavyada, the non-violent hunter as described in Varaha Purana. In a previous life, he somehow became a Brahma Rakshasa or a Brahmana ghost, but he was eventually saved. In a previous Kali Yuga, he had the association of a Vaishnava king named Vasu. The lady Kubja associated directly with Lord Krishna, and in her previous birth, she had associated with Sri Narada Muni. The gopis of Vrindavan rendered service to saintly persons in their previous births. Having had ample association with the devotees, they became gopis in Vrindavan in their next lives and associated with the eternally liberated gopis who had descended there. They also had association with Tulasi Devi or Vrinda Devi. The wives of the Brahmanas performing sacrifice had association with the women sent by Krishna to sell flower garlands and betel nuts and heard about the Lord from them.
Yes, thank you. That is a one-sentence purport of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj. Simply by the influence of the devotees' association, all of one's incompetence is destroyed so that one becomes qualified to attain the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's simply by association with me and my devotees, they achieved me. That is the next verse. The persons I've mentioned did not undergo serious studies of the Vedic literature, nor did they worship great saintly persons, nor did they execute severe vows of austerity. Simply by association with me and my devotees, they achieved me. So the association of the Lord and his devotees actually gives perfection of life. And we hear from Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj, without following any other sadhana, simply by the influence of the devotees' association, one can attain the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. That's quite a statement. Text 8. Now we come to the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So the inhabitants of Vrindavan, including the gopis, cows, the unmoving creatures such as the twin Arjun trees, animals, living entities with stunted consciousness, such as bushes and thickets, and snakes such as Kalia, all achieve the perfection of life by unalloyed love for me, and thus very easily achieved me. So the inhabitants of Vrindavan, such as the gopis, they did not know anything except Lord Krishna. And their whole purpose in life was simply to love Lord Krishna, as indicated with the words Kevalena Ibhavena. That even the trees, bushes, and hills, such as Govardhan, loved Krishna. That now in the purport, you have this verse 10, 15, 5 here. Awamideva varamachakshittam padam vujam te sumana falavan namantyupadaya shiksha bir atmanas dhammo padachaitaro jannatyat kritam. My dear brother Baladev, just see how these trees are bowing down with their branches and offering obeisance to your lotus feet, which are worshipable even by the demigods. Indeed, my dear brother, you are the supreme God, and thus these trees have produced fruits and flowers as an offering to you. Although a living entity takes birth as a tree due to the mode of ignorance, certainly by such a birth in Vrindavan, these trees are destroying all darkness in their lives by serving your lotus feet. So those who take Lord Krishna as everything are situated in the highest process of spiritual realization. The Lord glorifies the unalloyed devotee of Vrindavan, hidden by the gopis who knew nothing but Lord Krishna. The residents of Vrindavan were so satisfied in their relationship with Lord Krishna that they did not pollute their loving service with mental speculation or fruitive desires. They served Lord Krishna in different rasas. Then these rasas are described. That these different rasas are described. The trees, the bushes in Dasya ras, the cows in Vatsalya ras, the gopis in Madhurya ras. Text 9. Even though one engages with great endeavor, even though one engages with great endeavor in the mystic yoga system, philosophical speculation, charity, vows, penances, ritualistic sacrifices, teaching of Vedic mantras to others, personal study of the Vedas, or the renounced order of life, still one cannot achieve me. I will read the purport of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj. Even if one carefully studies the atheistic or theistic Sankhya philosophy, gives charity, observes vows, undergoes austerity, performs sacrifices, studies the Vedas, and explains the Vedic literature to others, one will still not attain the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So that brings up the question, that's okay, but then how can we achieve the mercy? That we will hear further. The residents of Vrindavan, headed by the gopis, were always completely attached to me with deepest love. Therefore, my uncle Akrura brought my brother Balaram and me to the city of Mathura. The residents of Vrindavan suffered extreme mental distress because of separation from me and could not find any other source of happiness. That was text 10, right? So anyone desiring true happiness must take to devotional service of the Lord in the spirit of the gopis. It means in the spirit of the gopis means giving up everything for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. We will hear Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj comment on this. So no one who desires actual happiness can achieve his goal of life without engaging in the devotional service to the Supreme Lord, who is eternal, full of knowledge, and full of bliss. The gopis, whose attachment for Krishna was intense, felt unlimited distress because of separation from him. When he and Balaram left for Mathura with Akrura, so also in Bhagavatamrita, this verse is quoted. So, text 11. Dear Uddhava, all of those nights that the gopis spent with me, their most dearly beloved in the land of Vrindavan, seemed to them to pass in less than a moment. Bereft of my association, however, the gopis felt that those same nights dragged on forever, as if each night were equal to a day of Brahma. So, Sridhar Swami, the gopis suffered extreme anxiety in the absence of Lord Krishna. And though outwardly appearing bewildered, they actually achieved the highest stage of samadhi. Their consciousness was intensely and intimately attached to Lord Krishna. And by such Krishna consciousness, their own bodies seemed very far away from them, even though people normally consider their body to be their closed possession. In fact, the gopis did not think about their own existence. Although a young woman normally considers her husband and children to be her dearmost possession, the gopis did not even consider the existence of their so-called families. Just like great sages who become detached from the names and forms of the material world, the gopis could not think of anything because they were wrapped in love in remembrance of Lord Krishna. Thus the day of Brahma seemed like a single moment for the gopis when Lord Krishna was present with them, and a single moment seemed like a day of Brahma when Lord Krishna was absent. So the atmosphere of Vrindavan brings the greatest ecstasy. And that greatest ecstasy is not possible in Mathura. Text 12. So interesting is that Krishna brings it back to the love of the residents of Vrindavan. Means it is in his heart, it must come out. And he brings Uddhava again to that state, to that point of speaking about the love of the residents of Vrindavan, which Uddhava before experienced when he visited them. So text 12. My dear Uddhava, just as great sages in yoga trance merged into self-realization, like rivers merging into the ocean, and are thus not aware of the material names and forms. Similarly, the gopis of Vrindavan were so completely attached to me within their minds that they could not think of their own bodies or of this world or of their future lives. Their entire consciousness was simply bound in me. So Lord Krishna is the source of everything, and the gopis are the Lord's own potency. Thus, there is no discrepancy in immorality in the Almighty Personality of Godhead. In the Almighty Personality of Godhead's loving affairs with his own manifest potencies, the gopis, who happened to be the most beautiful girls in the creation. There is no illusion on the part of the gopis, for they are so attached to Lord Krishna that they do not care to think of anything else. The gopis rejected whatever impeded their concentration on Lord Krishna, cursing their own eyelid, which blinked, and thus removed Krishna from their sight for a split second. So then text 13. All those hundreds of thousands of gopis, understanding me to be their most charming lover and ardently desiring me in that way, were unaware of my actual position. Yet by intimately associating with me, the gopis attained me, the supreme absolute truth. That's 13. The purport of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Mani. Because of their strong desire to please Krishna, the gopis, who were completely absorbed in the service of the Lord and who had only one goal in life, attained the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The gopis were many, and the Lord was one. Following their example, innumerable persons of a similar nature attained the association of the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Personality of God, Sri Krishna. Although from an external point of view, the gopis may be considered as women attached to a man other than their husband, but they took shelter of the Supreme Employer. Their conduct is always to be glorified. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj. So this verse has also been quoted in Birad Bhagavatamrita about the Pulingas. Text 14, 15. Therefore, my dear Uddhava, abandon the Vedic mantras as well as the procedure of supplementary Vedic literature and their positive and negative injunctions. Disregard that which has been heard and what is to be heard. Simply take shelter of me alone, for I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead situated within the heart of all the conditioned souls. Take shelter of me wholeheartedly, and by my grace be free from all circumstances. And this verse reminds us of Sarvadam Pacham Mamakam Jambacham from Sarvabhyo Mokshishi Mamacha. And that, or Nishtai Gunya Vidya Veda, the consents, the flowery language of the Vedas, Arjuna, Bhagavad-gita 2.4.5. So according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Lord Krishna previously kept the gopis' love for him concealed in his heart because of its confidential nature and the Lord's own gravity. Finally, Lord Krishna could not remain silent about the intense love of the gopis. And thus in these verses the Lord reveals to Uddhava how the gopis loved him in Vrindavan and brought him fully under their control. The Lord would relax in secret places with the loving gopis, and by conjugal spontaneous affection the greatest love was exchanged between them. So we have the second paragraph of the purport. Can someone read the second paragraph as explained by the Lord?
Yes, Maharaj. As explained by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita, one cannot achieve the perfection of life merely by renouncing the material world or by executing ordinary sectarian religious principles. One must actually understand the identity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by associating with his pure devotees, one must learn to love the Lord in his personal, original form. This love may be expressed in either the conjugal, paternal, fraternal, or serving rasa or relationship. The Lord has elaborately explained to Uddhava the system of philosophical analysis of the material world. And now he clearly concludes that it is useless for Uddhava to waste time in fruitive activities or mental speculation. Actually, Lord Krishna is hinting that Uddhava should assimilate the example of the gopis and try to advance further in Krishna consciousness by following in the footsteps of the cowherd damsels of Raja. Any conditioned soul who is unsatisfied with the cruel laws of nature, which impose death, disease, old age, should understand that Lord Krishna can deliver all living beings from the problems of material existence. There is no need to entangle oneself in unauthorized sectarian rituals, injunctions, or prohibitions. One should simply surrender to Lord Krishna, following the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Lord Krishna himself. By the authorized, regulated process of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, one easily achieves spiritual perfection.
Thank you. So, Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj. After carefully deliberating on that which was spoken by the Supreme Lord, one should simply surrender himself at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, knowing that this will eradicate all lamentation, illusion, and fear. Taking shelter of too many persons will not award one any real benefit. Rather, by taking shelter of the son of a king of Raj alone, who is one without a second, one will easily be liberated from the hands of all inauspiciousness. So by the authorized, regulated process of Bhakti Yoga, one can easily achieve the spiritual perfection. Lord Krishna, in this verse, explains to Uddhava how to follow in the footsteps of the gopis in that text 16. She would have said, O Lord of all Master of mystic power, I've heard your words, but the doubt in my heart does not go away. Thus my mind is bewildered. It is a fact that only unless one understands Lord Krishna to be everything, it is not possible to retire from ordinary worldly duties. Yes, rather, one is encouraged to offer the fruits of such work to the Lord. So, Uddhava's doubts are explained in the last paragraph of the purport. So, there are this verse. Here. Can one read this last paragraph? Having received such elaborate and technical instructions, someone can read it, please.
Having received such elaborate and technical instructions on the perfection of life, Uddhava is bewildered and his mind is afflicted with doubt about what he should actually do. Lord Krishna has described many procedures and the results of such procedures, all of which ultimately lead to the single goal, Lord Krishna himself. Uddhava therefore desires that Lord Krishna state in simple terms what should be done. Arjuna makes a similar request of the Lord in the beginning of 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura, Uddhava is stating here, my dear friend Krishna, first you recommend that I perform worldly activities within the Varnashrama system. Then you advise that I reject such activities and that take the path of philosophical research. Now, rejecting the path of jnana, you recommend that I simply surrender unto you in Bhakti Yoga. So, if I accept your decision, in future, you may again go back to the original point and recommend worldly activities. By his boldness in disclosing his mind, Uddhava reveals his intimate friendship with Krishna.
Thank you. I will also read Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's comment. My doubt is not dispelled. You previously said that I was qualified for karma by saying, Mai sarvani karmani nirapeksha samachara, with disinterest, give all karmas to me. That previous to that you said, Yaidam manasavaja kshakshabhyam shravanadibihi nasvaram veyamanam cha vidimaya manomayam. The material universe that you perceive through your mind, speech, eyes, ears, and other senses is a temporary creation that is equivalent to what is made of Maya when you perceive in the waking, and to what is made of the mind when you perceive in the dream state. Tasma yuktendriya ramo yukta shita idam jarat atmanik sasva vitatam atmanam mayadishva. Therefore, bring all your senses under control and thus subduing the mind. You should see the entire world as the object of enjoyment, for the jivas expanded everywhere. And you should also see the jivas as controlled by me, Paramatma. So by these verses you have told me to practice jnana. Now you give me qualification for bhakti by saying surrendering to me. I do not understand. And later you will give me qualification for karma again. So Uddhava uses cooked works arising from Sakya Rasa. That's his Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur at text 17. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Uddhava, the Supreme Lord gives life to every living being and is situated within the heart along with the life, air, and primal sound vibration. The Lord can be perceived in his subtle form within the heart by one's mind, since the Lord controls the minds of everyone. Even the great demigods like Lord Shiva, the Supreme Lord assumes a gross form as the various sounds of the Vedas, composed of short and long vowels and consonants of different intonations. That it was verse 17. So all these processes that are meant to help the living entities to attain the shelter of Krishna. So all these processes, speculative knowledge, renunciation, devotional, mystic yoga, austerities, pious duties, and devotional service. So they are meant to attain the shelter of Krishna. And ultimately, no Vedic process should be understood in any other way. Yeah, I read it again, the verse again, to understand it in that light. My dear Uddhava, the Supreme Lord gives life to every living being, and is situated within the heart along with the life air and primal sound vibration. The Lord can be perceived in a subtle form within the heart by one's mind. It's interesting. The Lord can be perceived in a subtle form within the heart by one's mind, since the Lord controls the mind of everyone. Even great demigods like Lord Shiva. The Supreme Lord also assumed a gross form as the various sounds of the Vedas, composed of short and long vowels and consonants of different intonations. So according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the Lord with light-hearted and encouraging words reveals to Uddhava the deep purpose behind the variety of Vedic procedures. Is to, yeah. The Lord spoke it as guidance for all living entities in different situations. So we try to understand this more deeply. We will read the second and third paragraph. Can someone read, starting with Lord Krishna became manifest from the mouth of Brahma?
Can I read, Maharaj?
Yes, please.
Lord Krishna became manifest from the mouth of Lord Brahma in the form of Vedas. The word Vivara Prastuti in this verse also indicate that the Lord is manifest within Adharadi chakra situated within the body of the Lord Brahma. The word Gusena means subtle sound, and Guyam Pravishtaha also indicates that Lord Krishna enters within Adhara chakra. The Lord can further be perceived within other chakras such as Manipurvaka chakra located around the navel and Vishuddhi chakra. The Sanskrit alphabet is composed of short and long vowels and consonants pronounced with high and low tones. Utilizing this vibration, the different branch of Vedic literature are manifest as a gross form of Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to Bhagavad Gita, such literature deals mostly with the three modes of material nature: Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nishtraigunya Bhavarjuna. Sridhar Swami explains that due to the control of the illusionary energy Maya, the personality of Godhead appears to the conditional souls as part of material universe. The imagined imposition of gross and subtle material qualities on the personality of Godhead is called avidya or ignorance, and through such ignorance, the living entity consider himself to be the doer of his own activity and become bound up in the network of karma. The Vedas therefore order an entangled soul to observe positive and negative injunction to purify his existence. These procedures are called pravritti marga, or the path of regulated fruitive activities. When one has purified one existence, one gives up this gross stage of fruitive activities because it is mental or the practice of pure devotional service. By firm faith, one may then worship the personality of Godhead. One who has developed perfect Krishna consciousness no longer has to perform ritualistic duties, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Tasya kartaram na vidyate. Should I continue?
Well, this chapter or this paragraph is quite a technical paragraph on the different chakras and how one can see Krishna in each of the chakras. But Jiva Goswami gives another way in which this verse can be understood, and that is in the next paragraph. Can someone read this according to Srila Jiva Goswami?
According to Srila Jiva Goswami, this verse may be understood in another way. The word Jiva indicates Lord Krishna, who gives life to the residents of Vrindavan. And Vivara Prasuti indicates that although Lord Krishna eternally performs his pastimes in the spiritual world, beyond the vision of the continued, beyond the vision of the conditioned souls, he also enters within the material universe to display these same pastimes. The words guham, guham, pravishta indicate that after displaying such pastimes, the Lord withdraws them and enters into his unmanifested pastimes, or those pastimes not manifested to the conditioned souls. In this case, matra indicates the transcendental sense of the Lord. Swara indicates the Lord's transcendental sound, vibration, and singing. And the word varna indicates transcendental form of the Lord. The word sthavishta or gross manifestation means that the Lord becomes manifest in the material world, even to those devotees who are not completely advanced in Krishna consciousness, and whose vision is not completely purified. Manomaya indicates that somehow or other, Lord Krishna is to be kept within one's mind. And for the non-devotees, Lord Krishna is Sukshma or most subtle, but he cannot be known. Thus, different acharyas have glorified Lord Krishna in different ways through the transcendental sound vibration of this verse.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will also read the commentary of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj on verse 17. When Krishna and Balaram left for Mathuri, the gopis became greatly afflicted due to pain of separation from Krishna. They could not imagine any other source of happiness than association of Krishna. This has been described in the 10th Canto. In the 13th verse of this chapter, the purport of all Vedic literature has been explained. Then in 2 verses, the supremacy of the Supreme Lord has been described. The Lord is the ultimate shelter of everyone, and all the Vedic mantras are transcendental sound vibrations that have emanated from him. So Srila Siddhar Swami has described the word vivaras, meaning the basis of everything. This has been elaborately discussed in verses 36 to 43 of the 21st chapter of the 11th Canto. We will come to that later. Transcendental sound vibration appears in 2 forms, gross and subtle. From the subtle form, the life, air, intelligence, and mind are manifested. From the gross form, the para, pasanti, madhyama, and vaikari manifest. The mind and the senses are particularly described as para or pranayam. When subtle substance is associated with the transcendental sound vibration, it is known as manomaya pashanti. When pranava or om is manifested, it is called buddhimaya madhyama. When pranava transforms into alphabets, it's called vaikari. Vaikari produces different meters such as priyat. So that comes all from the transcendental sound, quite technical. The 10th verse presents another meaning. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the life and soul of Raj. And Lord Krishna eternally performs his pastimes in the spiritual world beyond the vision of the conditioned souls. He also enters within the material universe to display these pastimes, the same pastimes. The word Guyam Pravishta indicates that after displaying such pastimes, the Lord withdraws them and enters into his unmanifest pastimes, or those pastimes not manifest to the conditioned souls. In this case, Matra indicates the transcendental senses of the Lord, Svara indicates the Lord's transcendental sound vibration and singing, and the word Varna indicates the transcendental form of the Lord. The word Stavishta, or gross manifestation, means that the Lord becomes manifest in the material world even those devotees who are not completely advanced in Krishna consciousness and whose vision is not completely purified, Manomaya indicates that somehow or other Lord Krishna is to be kept within one's mind. And for the non-devotees, Lord Krishna is Sukshma, or most subtle because he cannot be known. It's quite deep purpose that not easy to grasp the essence even. 18. When sticks of kindling wood are vigorously rubbed together, heat is produced by contact with air and a spark of fire appears. Once the fire is kindled, ghee is added and the fire blazes. Similarly, I become manifest in the sound vibration of the Vedas. So in the purport explains the progression of spiritual advancement as represented by the Vedas. Someone can read, please. Lord Krishna here explains.
Lord Krishna here explains the most confidential meaning of Vedic knowledge. Vedas first regulate ordinary material work and channel the fruits into ritualistic sacrifices, which ostensibly reward the performer with future benefits. The real purpose of these sacrifices, however, is to accustom a materialistic worker to offering the fruits of his work to a superior Vedic authority. An expert fruitive worker gradually exhausts the possibilities of material enjoyment and naturally gravitates towards the superior stage of philosophical speculation on his extinctual situation. By increased knowledge, one becomes aware of the unlimited glories of the Supreme and gradually takes to the process of loving devotional service to the transcendental absolute truth. Lord Krishna is the goal of Vedic knowledge. As the Lord states in Bhagavad Gita, Vedaschas Save Aham Eva Vedyaha. The Lord gradually becomes manifest in the progression of Vedic rituals, just as fire is gradually manifest by rubbing of firewood. The words Avishya Samidhate, the fire increases by addition of ghee, indicate that by the progressive advancement of Vedic sacrifice, the fire of spiritual knowledge gradually blazes, illuminating everything and destroying the chain of fruitive work. Lord Krishna considered Uddhava to be the most qualified person to hear this elaborate transcendental knowledge. Therefore, the Lord mercifully instructs Uddhava so that he may enlighten the sages at Badrik Prisham, thus fulfilling the purpose of the sages' life.
Yeah, so it's clear that at a certain moment that these ritualistic sacrifices for attaining the fruits, at a certain moment they become somewhat purified and they start to having interest to understand their own position, who they are, how they are different from the body. Philosophical speculation comes that and then this gradual progressive advancement towards spiritual knowledge. That's the essence. Now, the purpose of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj on 18. The pastimes of the Supreme Lord become manifest when there is glorification of the Lord in the association of devotees. Just as fire, which remains in an unmanifest state, is produced by the friction of two pieces of wood and then becomes a blazing fire with the help of air and ghee. The manifestation of the Lord's pastimes along with his name's form and qualities is realized by means of kirtan, simply by chanting of the holy name of Krishna. His forms, qualities, and pastimes become manifest. So that is Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj. Just in association of the devotees perform kirtan, and that will all become manifested. So the Vedic process is not our process. 19. The functions of the working senses, the organs of speech, the hands, the legs, the genitals, and the anus, and the functions of the knowledge-acquiring senses, the nose, tongue, eyes, skin, and ears, along with the functions of the subtle senses of mind, intelligent consciousness, and false ego, as well as the functions of the subtle pradhan and the interactions of the three modes of material nature. All these should be understood as my materially manifest form. So that's all Krishna says. I'm all of this. This is my materially manifest form. That so that's So that means a Krishna conscious person sees the entire world as a manifestation of the Lord's potencies, and there is therefore no legitimate scope for material sense gratification, because everything is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and belongs to Him. That's the Isavasya principle. In the material world, the living entity dreams that he is the Lord. The same person gives up this hallucination and therefore returns home back to Godhead. This is a commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Here, I will read it. Just as the Vedas, which arise from my form, appeared from the body of Brahma, material sound arises from the body of material persons in a corrupted form. Gadi refers to speech using the material voice. Shruti says, Sadvari vak parimita padani tani vidur brahmana ye manishina uyatrini nihitanan gayanti turiyam vacho manusya vadanti. Wise men know the four aspects of speech. They do not reveal the three hidden in the body. Men speak the fourth form, Rig Veda, 164.22. The meaning is speech is measured in four phases. Three are called para, situated in prana, at the base of the spine, pashanti, situated in the mind, in the navel, and madhyam, situated in the intelligence, in the heart. The sages do not reveal their forms. The fourth, called vaikari, is speech, is the vocal organ. Just as speech is manifested for me, the actions of all the senses of the total and individual jivas are manifested from Prakriti. Action is the function of the hands. Movement is action of the feet. Excretion is a function of the anus in general. These are all action senses. Smell is a function of the nose. Taste is a function of the tongue. Seeing is the function of the eye. Touch is a function of the skin. Hearing the function of the ears. These are knowledge senses. Decision is a function of the mind. Discrimination is the function of intelligence and chitta. Identity is the function of ahankar. Sutra or Matattva is a function of pradhan. The transformations of Rajas, Sattva, and Tamas are Adhyatma, Adideva, and Adibuddha. As all of these are manifestation of matter, the statements is a continuation of the last verse. Verse 20. When many seeds are placed in an agricultural field, innumerable manifestation of trees, bushes, vegetables, and so on will arise from a single source, the soil. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who gives life to all and is eternal, original, exists within the scope of the cosmic manifestation. In the course of time, however, the Lord, who is the resting place of the three modes of nature, and the source of the universal lotus flower, in which the cosmic manifestation takes place, divides his material potencies and thus appears to be manifested in innumerable forms, although he is one. We will read the last two verses of the purport. From the example of the seed sown in an agricultural field, we can understand that innumerable manifestations may arise from a single source. Similarly, the Lord is one. He becomes manifest in innumerable forms through the expansions of different potencies. So that's the essence. Everything is coming from Krishna and everything is maintained by him. That's the essence. 21. Just as woven cloth rests on the expansion of the lengthwise and crosswise threads, similarly the entire universe is expanded on the lengthwise and crosswise potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is situated within him. The conditioned soul has been accepting material bodies since time immemorial, and these bodies are like great trees sustaining one's material existence. Because the body is a tree, it's a tree maintaining our material existence. Just as a tree first blossoms and then produces fruit, similarly the tree of material existence, one's material body, produces the various results of material existence. So we have had many bodies in the past which are producing fruits. We experience still these fruits from these previous bodies in our lives. So before a tree produces fruits, blossom appears. Similarly, the word Pushpa Fali, according to Srila Vishwanath Bhakti Thakur, indicates the happiness and distress of material existence. One's material life may appear to be blossoming, but ultimately there will appear the bitter fruits of old age, death, and other catastrophes. Attachment to the material body, which is always inclined towards sense gratification, is the root of material existence. The material universe is an expansion of the illusory potency of the Supreme Lord and is always dependent on him and non-different from him. This simple understanding can relieve the conditioned soul from endless wandering in the unhappy kingdom of Maya. The word Pushpa Fali may also be understood as meaning sense gratification and liberation. So the body, the body described is this tree. The body is what the gopis have forgotten. That text 22-23. Now we have a whole analogy here. This tree of material existence has 2 seeds, hundreds of roots, 3 lower trunks and 5 upper trunks. It produces 5 flavors and has 11 branches and a nest made by 2 birds. The tree is covered by 3 types of bark, gives 2 fruits and extends up the sun. Those lusty after material enjoyment and dedicated to family life enjoy one of the tree's fruits, and swan-like men in the renounced order of life enjoy the other fruit. One who, with the help of a bona fide spiritual master, can understand this tree to be a manifestation of the potency of the one supreme truth appearing in many forms, actually knows the meaning of the Vedic literature, because with the help of bona fide spiritual masters. So without the explanation of this analogy, we cannot understand it. So what are the 2 seeds of this tree? It are our sinful and pious activities. And the hundreds of fruits are the living entities, innumerable material designs. These are the hundreds of fruits we have created. And the tree produces 5 flavors: sound, form, touch, taste, and aroma. And it has 11 branches, 9 working senses, 5 working senses, sorry, 5 is already enough, and 5 knowledge acquiring senses, and the mind. 2 birds, of course, this is the individual soul and the super soul. and they have both made their nest in the tree. 3 types of bark: air, bile, and mucus, the 3 constituent elements of the body. 2 types of happiness. It produces 2 kinds of fruits. 2 types of fruits, happiness and distress. That we will hear the purport by Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj from 22, 23. That so all gross and subtle forms of existence and the tree of material existence itself, which is born of karma performed since time immemorial, are inseparably connected to each other. Just like the horizontal and vertical threads of a cloth, the Supreme Lord is the origin of the cause of creation in the form of Brahma and effect in the form of the universe. The tree of material existence produces flowers in the form of material happiness and distress, and fruits in the form of bondage and liberation. By the influence of karma, piety and impiety are created. Material desires are the cause of committing pious and sinful activities. The 3 trunks of this tree are the 3 modes of material nature, the 5 material elements and its branches, and the 11 senses are its sub-branches. Happiness and distress are the fruits of this tree that are tasted by the conditioned souls. There is a nest in the tree of material existence, wherein 2 birds, the individual soul and the supersoul, reside. Air, bile, mucus are the coverings of bark of this tree. The material universe extends up to the sun. Those who are attracted to sense enjoyment suffer distress under the control of material desires. Those in the renounced order of life who are free from all desires for temporary sense gratification enjoy happiness even in this life. When one can see the Supreme Lord as ultimate cause of everything, then his knowledge is perfect. So we have also the commentary of Vishwanath Bhakti Thakur. Can someone read the commentary? It's on the screen.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Thank you.
The metaphor is expanded. It has 2 seeds, piety and sin. It has 100 roots or unlimited desires. It has 3 trunks or 3 gunas. It has 5 branches, the 5 gross elements. It produces 5 saps, the 5 sense objects. It has 11 branches, the senses. In the tree is a nest with 2 birds, Jiva and Paramatma. It has 3 layers of bark, Vata, Pitta, and Slishma. It has 2 fruits, happiness and distress. It's spread up to the sun. One who goes beyond the sun becomes free of samsara. This verse describes the enjoyers of the fruits, the vultures, Rudra, those who desire enjoyment, or the householders, Grame Chara. They eat the one fruit of the tree suffering made of avidya. There is only one fruit, since both hell and heaven are forms of suffering produced by avidya. The sannyasis, Hamsa, eat one fruit, happiness, arising from vidya by discrimination, since things related to the gnana all give happiness. He who knows about the many forms arising through Maya's Shakti, through worshipping gurus, knows the real meaning of the Vedas. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're coming to the last verse of the chapter. With steady intelligence, you should develop unalloyed devotional service by carefully worship of the spiritual master, and with the sharpened axe of transcendental knowledge, you should cut off the subtle material covering of the soul. Upon realizing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you should then give up that axe of analytical knowledge. So we have, can someone read the second paragraph of the purport? Lord Krishna has clearly explained.
Lord Krishna has really explained in this chapter that the cowherd damsels of Vrindavana were not interested in an analytical approach to life. They simply loved Lord Krishna and could not think of anything else. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught that all his devotees should follow in the footsteps of the cowherd damsels of Praja in order to develop the highest intensity of selfless love of Godhead. Lord Krishna has elaborately analyzed the nature of the material world so that the conditioned souls who are trying to enjoy can cut down the tree of material existence with this knowledge. The words Sampadya Chatmanam indicate that a person with such knowledge has no further material existence because he has already achieved the personality of Godhead. Such a person should not loiter in the kingdom of Maya, perpetually refining his understanding of this illusory creation. One who has accepted Lord Krishna as everything may enjoy eternal bliss in the Lord's service. Yet, even though he remains in this world, he has no more business with it and gives up the analytical procedures for negating it. Lord Krishna therefore tells Uddhava, Tejastram, give up the acts of analytical knowledge by which you have cut down your sense of proprietorship and residence in the material world.
So yes, this analytical knowledge is transcendental knowledge, but it's a lower knowledge. The higher knowledge is prema. If you have attained prema, then you have cut your connection with the material world. And the analytical knowledge was meant to cut this connection, but then you don't need it anymore. That now Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur here says, knowing this, having accomplished the purpose give up all sadhana by the acts of jnana, sharpened by the main purpose of bhakti, which has a secondary role, cut the subtle body made of the three gunas. On attaining Paramatma, give up the practice of jnana, the weapon. I'm directing all these instructions to you, though you are beyond jnana, just as I gave all types of instructions to Arjuna in the Gita. You should not fear that this is detrimental for you. That now Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj is commentary, last verse. An intelligent person desiring of freedom from material existence should take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and render service to him, considering him to be the topmost devotee of the Supreme Lord. While engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, one should destroy all obstacles with the acts of transcendental knowledge. This way, one can come to transcend the three modes of material nature. By awakening knowledge of one's relationship with the Supreme Lord, one can become free from material bondage and attain all auspiciousness by engaging in devotional service to the Lord. So, bhakti will destroy the subtle body, as Lord Kapila Dev says. In a purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, one gets the strength to sharpen the sword of knowledge by the instructions of the spiritual master. Then Balaram gives you the strength, the Asyuta Bala, to use the sword. The Guru is the representative of Balaram also. So this is the 12th chapter, which brought us to the Prema, to the Raj Prema, that and it explains how to attain Raj Prema. Now in the next chapter, that is the title we see here, Amsavatar answers the question of the sons of Brahma. So the question discussed in this chapter 13, it goes back to a question that I think the four Kumaras asked to Brahma, could have been the Ashvini Kumaras. We will see further. But they asked to Brahma that the mind is connected with the sense objects. The sense objects, they are entering to the mind. But how to transcend it? How can we get that connection? And Brahma, with his foreheads, thinking about it, and Brahma said, I don't know. I don't know how to do that. And then the Lord appeared as Hamsa avatar to answer that question. And that's the gist from the chapter 13. And it is very interesting, this Hamsa avatar answering the sons of Brahma. I thought we will start reading, we will beginning this chapter after the pause that first, before we resume, are there any questions or comments or thoughts on this chapter? Something you want to share? That what is the practical value of this in our lives? What did we learn? Good. I would say think about it. If you have questions or comments, we can do that after the break.
Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj.
I'm sorry I am unable to open the camera today. I'm not in a good health to sit down, so I'm lying and hearing the class.
Yeah, no problem.
Maharaj, I like the point that Krishna mentions. One should not be lost in just analytical study, but one should render service to Krishna with great affection, with great care and attention, and transcend analysis of this world, but to approach love of Godhead. I find that because I am too analytical, I just get lost in analyzing scriptures, not really going to the essence of serving Krishna with care and respect and attention. So
Yeah.
this is what I learned from the last
Thank
chapter.
you, Maharaj. That's a very humble comment. Yeah, so submitting your defects, I would say, in some way or another, of what you feel are your obstacles. That, but it's true, Yanyat Yasubaricham, that not real knowledge comes from devotional service. From the scriptures, we get theoretical knowledge, but then you have to practice devotional service to realize that. You need to Dadami Buddhiyogam Tam Krishna, who gives you the realization in your heart. And that is true. That analytical knowledge, as we hear, it can be auxiliary to devotional service. It's assisting. But to get the real thing, devotional service, that is also, that's important. Thank you for sharing that. Good. Then we will have a pause. It's nearly 5 o'clock. Let's resume at 15 past 5. So that means 17 minutes, 18 minutes from now, we resume. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, we will resume with chapter 13 of the Uddhava Gita. In this chapter, Lord Krishna explains how the conditioned soul becomes bound by the three modes of nature. And why? Because they want to fulfill desires for sense gratification. And the means for liberation is also discussed. So in this chapter, the Lord tells how he appeared as Lord Hamsa before Brahma and his sons, the four Kumaras, and how he spoke to them confidentially. So the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, they don't have actually a relationship. They have no relationship with the eternal spirit soul. But because we are influenced by these modes of nature or our consciousness becomes contaminated by these lower modes of nature, that we identify with the body, but we can get out of it by cultivating the mode of goodness. Cultivating the mode of goodness, and ultimately one should transcend the modes of goodness by acting as a spirit soul, by acting on the pure platform of pure goodness, by acting in our relationship with Krishna. So the three modes of material nature influence one according to one's association with a particular scripture, because that's very interesting. How can we change our association? All the means are given in this chapter to change our association. We can change our association by the type of scripture we accept, type of water we drink, the places we are in, the times of the day we do things, kind of charity we give, the quality of our activities, the births we take, the meditations we do, the mantras we utter, the rituals we do, and so on. So being merged in ignorance, the conditioned soul misidentifies with the body. And therefore, the mode of passion and ignorance, they are producing misery for us. When the mode of passion becomes prominent, our mind becomes absorbed in so many material desires. So those who are controlled by the modes of passion, they become the slave of their senses and the slave of the fulfillment of all these desires. They may even understand that this will bring us to misery, but they cannot give up the temptation to gratify the senses. At the other side, one who is actually intelligent remains detached from the object of the senses by taking shelter of your devotional service. That's the factual solution. So Lord Brahma is referred here in this chapter as the unborn original person within the universe, but factually is the secondary creator of the living entities. and he is the ruler of all the demigods. So even Brahma is in anxiety because of his contact with material nature. Therefore, once he was questioned by his mind-born sons, the 4 Kumaras, headed by a Sanak, about how can we give up all these desires for Sanskrit recreation. But Brahma could not give a conclusive reply. Therefore, he took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appeared in his incarnation as Lord Hamsa. And he instructed Brahma about the nature of the cell of the 3 states of consciousness, wakefulness, sleep, and deep sleep, and how we can cross over the ocean of material existence. So the Kumaras became enlightened by the words of the Lord, and they worship him with unalloyed devotion. So that is sum and substance of this chapter. We will start with text 1. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Shri Bhagavanavacha Sattvam Rajastama Guna Buddher Nasatmana Satvanayat Anyat Satvan Satvanachevahi. The Supreme Personality of God said the 3 modes of material nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance, pertain to material intelligence and not to the spirit soul. By development of material goodness, one can conquer the mode of passion and ignorance, and by cultivation of transcendental goodness, one may free oneself even from material goodness. But goodness in this world never exists in a pure form. Therefore, on the material platform, no one is working without material motivation. Personal motivation comes from passion. Like in the United States, also in Europe, people give sometimes to charities to evade taxes. So unless one is fully Krishna conscious, one will speak truths that are not ultimately significant, and one will give mercy that is ultimately useless. In India, sometimes they say that work is worship, but the work will end with the body. That it's an insignificant truth. Yeah. In the Second World War, in the concentration camps in Auschwitz, there was a big banner above the entrance of the concentration camps. And that's in German, it said, Arbeit macht's frei. So work makes one free. It was also a very insignificant truth, because the opposite was true. But because of the onwards march of material nature, it removes all situations and persons from the material stage. So one so-called mercy and truth apply to situations that shortly will not exist. I've also seen, when I speak with people, if one is vegan or vegetarian, one can more easily understand Krishna consciousness, are not so much in the ignorance. Still, for ordinary persons, cultivation of material goodness may be a preliminary stage on the road to Krishna consciousness. One must take advantage of an elevated position in material goodness to step onto the transcendental platform. So we will have here the purport. Someone can read the purport of verse 1. Goodness in the material world.
Goodness in the material world never exists in a pure form. Therefore, it is common knowledge that on the material platform, no one is working without personal motivation. In the material world, goodness is always mixed with some amount of passion and ignorance, whereas spiritual or purified goodness, Vishuddha Sattva, represents the liberated form of perfection. Materially, one is proud to be an honest, compassionate man. But unless one is fully Krishna conscious, one will speak truths that are not ultimately significant. And one will give mercy that is ultimately useless. Because the onward march of material time removes all situations and persons from the material stage. Our so-called mercy and truth apply to situations that shortly will not exist. Real truth is eternal, and real mercy means to situate people in eternal truth. Still, for an ordinary person, cultivation of material goodness may be preliminary stage on the road to Krishna consciousness. For example, it is stated in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that one who is addicted to meat eating cannot understand the pastimes of Lord Krishna. By cultivation of material mode of goodness, however, one may become a vegetarian and perhaps come to appreciate the sublime process of Krishna consciousness. Since it is clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita that the material modes of nature constantly rotate, one must take shelter of an elevated position in material goodness to step onto the transcendental platform. Otherwise, as the wheel of time turns, one will again go into the darkness of material ignorance.
Thank you, Srinivas. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has also commented. Says in the 13th chapter, the Lord speaks of the method of removing material contamination from the heart by meditation on the Lord in order to become free from the material world. Through the story related to Hamsa and the Kumaras, the Lord mentioned destroying samsara by the acts of knowledge. The method of producing knowledge is now described in 7 verses. 7 verses, the method of producing knowledge. The gunas do not belong to the jiva. They belong to the intelligence. The binding gunas of ignorance must be destroyed. The rajas and tamas portions are destroyed by sattva. Sattva with truth and compassion is destroyed by the condition of cessation, sattvena. Good. I have still a comment here of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj, a short one. The subtle elements, the mind, intelligence, and false ego, are material and under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature. The spirit soul, on the other hand, is completely aloof from matter. One should regain his original condition by curtailing the influence of passion and ignorance, by cultivating the mode of goodness, and then transcend the influence of mixed material goodness by taking shelter of transcendental goodness, Vishuddha Sattva. Now we will hear more about this process in the next 7 verses, as Vishwanath said. Text 2. So in this chapter we will hear about material goodness, transcending material goodness. Text 2. When the living entity becomes strongly situated in the mode of goodness, then religious principles characterized by devotional service to me become prominent. One can strengthen the mode of goodness by cultivation of these things that are already situated in goodness, and thus religious principles arise. Purport. Before we go into that, so things that will help us to develop love for God that is transcendental. The purpose of life is not trying to become a better person in this world that is mundane, that's in the modes. Chapter 14 of Bhagavad Gita describes and explains things that are in the mode of goodness, passion and ignorance. Just by choosing food, attitudes, work, recreation, etc., strictly in the mode of goodness, one will become situated in that mode. So the usefulness of sattva guna, or the mode of goodness, is that it produces religious principles aimed at and characterized by devotional service to Lord Krishna. Without such devotional service, the mode of goodness is considered useless and merely another illusion. The full maturity of goodness is called Vishuddha Sattva, or the transcendental platform on which there is no trace of any other quality. So, it means the mode of goodness is a fertile ground for Dharma. When religious principles are followed, then devotional service can also flourish. So we will hear which things we should cultivate in goodness. So in pure goodness, all knowledge automatically manifests, and one can easily understand one's eternal loving relationship with Krishna. So why is that important? Vishwanath Chakravarti's Thakur's purport. This verse describes the ability of sattva to conquer the other gunas. By increase in sattva dharma, dharma with bhakti as a secondary characteristic arises. Or from sattva dharma, which derives its good qualities from bhakti, alone arise. This means that dharma without bhakti has no good qualities. How does sattva increase? By use of sattvika items, sattvika increases. From increase of sattva, dharma arises. Oh, yeah, dharma and the savai pumsa dharma paro. Yeah, savai pumsa pro dharma. The highest occupational duty is savai pumsa pro dharma yato bhakti radoksya, pure devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the real dharma, and that arises from that. 3. Religious principles strengthened by the mode of goodness destroy the influence of passion and ignorance. When passion and ignorance are overcome, their original cause, irreligion, is quickly vanquished. So religious principles strengthened by the mode of goodness destroy the influence of passion and ignorance. So passion and ignorance must be destroyed, defeated. We do that with the mode of goodness, but based, but by following religious principles. So when passion and ignorance are overcome, the original cozy religion is quickly vanquished. So that is text 3. We will read the commentary first, and purport of Bhaktivedanta Sarasvati, text 3. When the influence of passion and ignorance is vanquished, irreligious principles that are born of passion and ignorance are also vanquished. There is no superior quality than purified goodness, which when developed vanquishes the qualities of passion and ignorance. When passion and ignorance are destroyed, their irreligion, which is the origin of these qualities, is also destroyed. So that's the same point he's making. Now we will hear what we need to cultivate in goodness. So this is an important verse. If someone asks you how to cultivate goodness, this verse is important. We cultivate different modes by association. According to the quality of religious scriptures, water, one's association with one's children or with people in general, the particular place, the time, activities, birth, meditation, chanting of mantras, and purificatory rituals, the modes of nature become differently prominent. Purport: the 10 items mentioned above possess superior and inferior qualities and are thus identified as being in goodness, passion, and ignorance. One can increase the mode of goodness by selecting religious scriptures in goodness, pure water, friendship with other persons in goodness, and so on. One should scrupulously avoid any of these 10 items that may be polluted by any inferior mode of nature. That's a commentary. Vishvanatha Bhakti Thakur. By use of sattvika items, sattva becomes prominent. 2 verses now explain sattvika items. Agama means scripture. Apa means water. Raja means people. These 10 items are produced by the 3 gunas, guna etava. The scriptures and other items come in 3 varieties: sattva, rajas, and tamam. So we have also purport of Bhaktivedanta Sarasvati Maharaj. So one comment here, because we are hearing here that we need to cultivate the mode of goodness. One of the items is birth. One can say, what can I do about my birth? No, birth means here, birth in the mode of goodness means receiving initiation from a spiritual master. It's your spiritual birth. Commentary by Bhaktivedanta Sarasvati Maharaj. Just one, yeah. It has already been described that by eating food in the mode of goodness, one's existence becomes purified. The next 2 verses describe objects on the platform of goodness. The word agama means religious scriptures, and word praja means people in general. There are 3 kinds of religious scriptures: those in the mode of goodness, those in the mode of passion, and those in the mode of ignorance. Purport: the three material modes are prominent in varieties of people, water, children, time, place, action, mantras, and so on. That so this is a commentary of Bhaktivedanta. There are three kinds of religious scriptures: those in the mode of goodness, those in the mode of passion, and those in the mode of ignorance. Or, in other words, those meant for the mode of, for those in the mode of goodness, those meant for those in the mode of passion, or those meant in the mode of ignorance. So next, the verse describes objects on the platform of goodness. Objects on the platform of goodness. 5. Among the 10 items I've just mentioned, the great sages who understand Vedic knowledge have praised and recommended those that are in the mode of goodness, criticized and rejected those in the mode of ignorance, and show indifference to those in the mode of passion. Vishwanath, among those items is the sages praise items in sattva, condemn items in tamas, and neither praise or condemn items in rajas. That Bhaktivedanta is Fatima, short comment. Among the 10 items, the one that are beneficial and admirable are sattvika, the one that are obnoxious are tamasika, and the other that simply give rise to indifference are rajasika. Text 5. Now text 6. Now we are coming really in the cultivation of the mode of goodness. Mother Anangamoini, yes, please enlighten us.
I just had a quick question. I was just wondering why they neither praise nor condemn items in Rajas Passion.
Yeah, that I was also thinking of that. Why is that? Because Rajas Passion, that they reject those in the mode of ignorance and show indifference to the mode of passion. That, of course, what came to my mind is the mode of passion. You remember Bhagavad Gita, lust is the enemy number 1, and lust is born of the mode of passion. That, and why is lust so dangerous, this mode of passion? Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita in 334, it said there are 2 obstacles. Because in 330, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says you should act without the knowledge that I'm the proprietor of everything. And so you have no sense of proprietorship and without desire to enjoy anything, because I'm the proprietor, that's acting as a spirit soul. And then Krishna after that in 334 said, but there are 2 obstacles to do that. It's attachment and aversion. Then Arjuna said, yes, Krishna, I'm controlled by this attachment of an aversion. I don't want to kill my grandfather. I'm averse to it. That so I'm controlled by it. But what is the cause of that attachment? And then Krishna says lust. Lust is the cause of attachment and aversion. So one within the material consciousness, he lives in the world of attachment and aversion, accepting, rejecting, and the mind does these things constantly, and it becomes mad. I don't want this, I want only that, and it becomes really madness. That, but the sage, he does not accept or rejects is in goodness. Is not interested in that. Is indifferent to accepting or rejecting that these are the material modes working. And he does not engage in that. He does not engage in these activities. And he has overcome that. He controls his senses by engaging in devotional service or by any other process, but he controls his senses and is indifferent to accepting and rejecting that. And that's why sages are indifferent to the mode of passion, is accepting and rejecting. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. That's at least what I understood. Text 6. Until one revives one's direct knowledge of the spirit soul and drives away the illusory identification with the material body and mind caused by the three modes of nature, one must cultivate those things in the mode of goodness. By increasing the mode of goodness, one automatically can understand and practice religious principles, and by such practice, transcendental knowledge is awakened. So, cultivating the mode of goodness. First, study religious scriptures that teach detachment from mental speculation and material sense gratification. For us, that's of course the Bhagavatam. That's what we are doing now. And then one should accept pure water for quenching thirst and cleaning the body. That I learned from Prahlad Maharaj. I traveled many years with him, 2-3 months a year, during 10 years or so. And he was also during the day, he was very regulated in his eating, sleeping, and so on. But during the day, he was always drinking pure water. But a little at a time. Not a lot of water, very balanced. Just every hour, a glass, but it takes a while before but it was always drinking pure water between. It cleanses the body. Of course, Kali Yuga has progressed a lot. And the tap water today is full of chemicals, medication, residues, and different dangerous substances. So you cannot drink tap water. So now we have all at home these filters, and we filter water to get pure water. It's also a problem to get pure water. So that's Kali Yuga. Difficult to get pure food, different to get clean air, difficult to get pure water. All these necessities of life becomes very difficult to get that. And if you just go with the consumption thing today, then yeah, what will happen? Nadia Bihari Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. One small question, Maharaj, from the previous verse. We're seeing that the modes are like even at intelligence level, the modes are the ones that are in control. That means the intelligence is not controlling the modes, but modes are controlling the intelligence. And a mind is below the intelligence.
Yeah.
And Arjuna says it's more difficult to control the mind than the wind, which means like mind is very difficult to control. Yeah. So the modes are basically controlling even the intelligence and mind. Then how do we transcend the modes? Because we are trying to use the mind and intelligence to control to transcend the modes.
that is a very good question. That yes, our intelligence is also made of modes first, and is controlled by the modes. And the mind must be controlled by the intelligence. How then can we control the intelligence, the mind? We cannot control the mind by the modes. I think that's the gist of your question, right? Is that correct?
Yes, Maharaj, that's right.
Yeah. Then what does Krishna say in the last verse of the 3rd chapter? One should strengthen the intelligence by transcendental knowledge. And with that transcendental knowledge, one should control the mind. Transcendental knowledge is what we are hearing now, Uddhava, Gita, and Bhagavad Gita, Shamans. Therefore, Shastra Saksu. Before we do something, we should always have this one point and intelligence, that Vyavasatmika Buddhi, the intelligence of one point. Before you do something, you should think, should Krishna be pleased if I do that? Should the spiritual master be pleased? And then we do probably the right thing. Otherwise, we will do the wrong thing. So Prahlad Maharaj asked he asked Prabhupada, how do I know that what Krishna wants me to do? And Prabhupada looked upon him with compassion and said, you will do the wrong thing. So we can understand that on our own, trying to find out what we have to do. No, it's the modes. And we need help from transcendental knowledge. That because a mind in passion means a mind that an intelligence in passion means an intelligence that is misused for sense gratification. By hearing Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam, and by using the intelligence in the service of Krishna's mission, Prabhupada's mission, intelligence becomes purified. And then we get access to the transcendental intelligence. The material intelligence, if our intelligence is completely purified, means purified from the 3 modes, it becomes transcendental, spiritual. Yes, Krishna Prabhu, please help us to understand us further.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I will try to seek your shelter. Maharaj, following the question of Bihari Prabhu, wherein he said that how do we control the modes? So in this case, as what you are suggesting, that even the resolute intelligence must consult the scriptures or the spiritual master before it actually takes action. Yeah. That's what actually protects us.
Yeah.
Is the understanding correct?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's right. That is our protection. Good. Something else? Okay.
No, Maharaj, I just wanted to speak. Thank you.
So this text 6 requires a long discussion, and best is we start with that in the next session, but so that we can tomorrow finish chapter 13, which is a very important and practical chapter. So thank you very much. Looking forward to see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Sai Prabhupada.
Thank you, Maharaj. His Holiness Bhakti Prabhu Maharaj ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki